future behind me. Na 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 na. I'll keep going, nothing can stop me. Na 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 na.
Welcome everyone once again to another episode of Extra Extra, the sort of semi-regular, I think, show that we do in the middle of the week or sometime thereabouts when we have stuff that, you know, doesn't fit Princess Amount Stupid, or we just don't have time for normally that requires a second show. So that's what tonight's about. We've got some topics on the list of things to do. We got some things that came up last minute because that's kind of what the show is about, covering some of these things that we can't really get to. So before I bring my guests on, I wanted to deal with some housekeeping. We may talk about it still Saturday, but people in the community, the Fin Twit, meme stock, whatever you want to call it, community, thinking that threats, death threats, and things like that are acceptable behavior. This one was brought to my attention earlier in the week from Stomping Llama, who I follow on Twitter, dealing with an 8K that was posted by ALPP about the resignation of their chief financial officer on the 26th of July. The highlighted part is the key part. Mr. Menirez and his family have been subjected to threats and online harassment related to his service with the company. Specifically, the threats from one individual against his underage children that include posting of pictures of his wife and children with guns to their heads on platforms such as X and StockTwits. This individual has also contacted Mr. Menirez's spouse and children directly. The FBI has opened a case and is working with Interpol to find this individual. The company's management shares Mr. Menirez's concerns and frustrations with such unwarranted criminal conduct. He believes that for the safety of his family and himself, it is in his and their best interest that he resigns from his position. The board accepts his decision and thanked him for his valuable service to the company. The company intends to pursue all legal remedies against this individual to the highest extent possible. Absolutely disgusting and despicable. However, sadly, it's not the only one. Oh, dear me, my. Hey, it's Gardner Wade, the brother of Houston Wade, part of our Princess Amount Stupid Chronicles on the meme stock community. Now, what is it that Mr. Wade did? Well, Mr. Wade decided to basically insinuate that members of the MMTLP community send homemade explosive bombs with timers to every airport and bus station in the United States. I don't know what to say about that other than I know several FBI reports were sent out. To be clear, Mr. Wade said afterwards that it was just a prank, bro, as if that makes things better. But I don't know why we're even having to have this discussion. It's grody. It's disgusting. I can't even believe that we've had to reach this point. But apparently we need to have this discussion. But before we continue on, I figure I'll bring on my guests. We have first one of our usual suspects, Platinum Sparkles. How you doing?
Hello. Good.
How many bombs did you send out today?
Well, okay, first of all, he didn't say to send bombs. If you read it carefully, he said to send fake bombs, okay?
Fake bombs. Oh, well, that makes it so much better.
Yeah, and to put them at all the bus stations. So, you know,
yeah,
in airports. Totally normal. 500,000 people too, by the way, which...
Yeah, exactly. He even said he knew that it was a class 6 felony to send fake bombs. It's like, thanks for your probable cause. I hope you get a knock from the FBI.
Yeah,
and of course,
if people want to be heard about their issues, that's not the way to go.
The legal way.
Yeah, don't do it like that.
And we also have our other guest today, Just.Scrollin.Trades. How are you doing, sir? You're muted.
Muted.
Sorry about that. Doing great.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Since this is your first time, or is it your second time? I can't remember. Actually,
No,
on
it's
the
my
show.
first time. It's my first time being on the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Welcome.
So
I don't know a whole lot that's going on, but I can't wait to ask questions and see what you guys can tell and teach me
Alrighty.
something.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. So, why don't we get with the first topic that I wanted to bring up? I'm going to switch to the side panel. Oh no, that cuts him off.
he's
Let's
gone.
not do that. We can't make him disappear. It has a weird shot centering thing that it does when it does that. So we'll just leave it like this. So the thing that I forgot today completely, it blew my mind for some reason. I guess I was being lazy, but FOMC was today. Target rate is going to remain the same. I said that more than likely that was going to remain the same till the September meeting. So we'll see the next one, what happens. Everyone was hanging with bated breath on Jerome Powell's words that, you know, if the data shows it, we'll look at September. I won't say anything specific, and we'll be data driven as we are at the Fed, but not like I didn't want to make a whole stream about it because like they did the same thing they've done the past 3 meetings, which is nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Let me see here. So the big thing I wanted to bring up, our first main topic, dealt with the Tesla autopilot, over reliance on computer vision, says Wall Street Journal. I'll be pulling up that video for us to watch here just shortly. But basically what was said that there have been 1,000 crashes reported to the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration. Yes, I got that right. Excellent, without needing to see it. The Wall Street Journal has gotten 222 of those crashes, and the paper said 44 of them occurred when the autopilot was activated, happened while the autopilot was activated and suddenly veered, while another 33 of the crashes reportedly happened when autopilot failed to yield for stopping or stop for an obstacle. So that was from Car and Driver. I'll have a link to that. Now, the quality for this is not going to be premium because I don't want to get flagged for it in the middle of the live stream and have to go around it. So we're going to watch this. The audio is going to be a little distorted, and so is the video, but this is the gist of the video behind the paywall. It's an 11-minute video, so we'll get through it real quick. And if you guys want to stop and comment on anything, just let me know.
On the morning of May 5th, 2021, Stephen Hendrickson was driving his Tesla Model 3 to work. His car was in autopilot as he drove through Fontana, California. At about 2:30 a.m., an overturned semi-truck appeared in front of him. Moments later, he was killed. The 35-year-old left behind his wife and 2 kids. This crash is one of more than 1,000 that Tesla has submitted to federal regulators since 2021, the details of which have been hidden from the public. Video and data gathered from these crashes by the Wall Street Journal shows that Tesla's heavy reliance on cameras for its autopilot technology, which differs from the rest of the industry, is putting the public at risk. Teslas operating in autopilot have been involved in hundreds of crashes across U.S. roads and highways since 2016. Over the years, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has maintained the technology is safe.
I do think that long-term it can reduce accidents by a factor of 10. We're solving just a very important part of AI, and one that can ultimately save millions of lives and prevent tens of millions of serious injuries. The safety per mile is better than human driving.
Leading expert on autonomous driving, Missy Cummings, who's been critical of Tesla, warned of the risks of semi-autonomous vehicles in 2016.
There is no question that someone is going to die in this technology. The question is when.
Cummings has also worked as a safety advisor for the federal regulator, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA.
I am besieged with requests from families of people who have been killed in Tesla crashes. It's really tough to explain to them that, you know, this is the way the tech was designed.
Since 2021, NHTSA has launched a series of investigations into autopilot. They've released little information about them, and the cars remain on the road. Also in 2021, NHTSA ordered car makers to report all serious crashes involving semi-autonomous driving systems like autopilot. But much of the data Tesla submitted has been hidden from public view because the company considers it proprietary. To unlock it, the journal gathered reports from individual states and matched them with the crash data Tesla submitted to NHTSA, and found that long-standing concerns about the autopilot technology are showing up on America's roads. Of the 1,000-plus crashes Tesla submitted so far, the journal pieced together 222 and found that 44 of them occurred when Teslas in autopilot veered suddenly. 31 occurred when a Tesla in autopilot failed to stop or yield for an obstacle in front of it. Orlando, Florida, a Model 3 drove into the back of a stopped police car that was attending to a disabled vehicle. Guadalupe County, Texas, a Model 3 plowed through an intersection and off the road. These failure-to-stop crashes, like the one that killed Stephen Hendrickson, account for the most serious injuries and deaths in the cases the journal unlocked.
I had to hang up the phone and look at both my kids as they're crying. They're telling me to tell them it's not true, that their dad was in a car accident and he won't be coming home.
Tesla has said drivers operating in autopilot need to be ready to take control at all times. They say Stephen Hendrickson was warned to keep his hands on the wheel 19 times before he crashed, and that his car initiated braking before impact. But whether or not a driver is alert, it's important to know how autopilot performed, and that can only be seen through the large amounts of internal video and data Teslas record. The journal obtained video and partial data from the Hendrickson crash and asked experts to analyze it.
The kind of things that tend to go wrong with these systems are things like it was not trained on the pictures of an overturned double trailer. It just didn't know what it was. There were some lights there, but the lights were in unusual positions. A person would have clearly said something big is in the middle of the road. But the way machine learning works is it trains it on a bunch of examples. And if it encounters something it doesn't have a bunch of examples for, it may have no idea what's going on.
Experts say this illustrates a fundamental flaw in the autopilot technology. It relies mainly on cameras or computer vision, with radar as a backup in some models.
Other driving assist cars, they have radar, computer vision, and LiDAR, laser ranging, that kind of helps you detect obstacles. But the LiDAR is very expensive.
Expensive sensors that are unnecessary. It's like having a whole bunch of expensive appendices.
Instead, Tesla's camera-based system relies on humans to train it on obstacles it may encounter.
Even though people think these cars are learning while they're driving, they're not. They're only learning at the rate that the companies are deciding to retrain the algorithms.
So I'm going to turn autopilot on right now. I just pull my finger down like that one time, and as you can see on the screen, the visualizations have started.
John Bernal is a former Tesla employee who was fired in 2022 after posting videos of autopilot failures. Tesla has not commented publicly on his dismissal.
So as we go through this downtown, you'll see a lot of cars being visualized, just, kind of on the side of the road being parked. You'll see pedestrians walking the sidewalk. We originally started at Tesla in August 2020 as a data annotation specialist. That role primarily relied on me taking image data and labeling it to train the technology on what a car was, what a pedestrian was, maybe an animal, a lane line, or what a red light was. That way, with this image data training, the vehicle would then know how to operate in a real-world situation when that data came through the cameras and through the car's computer. The car has 8 cameras, specifically 3 right here in the front. And so as that truck just went across us, it's actually going through the plane of multiple different cameras. And one camera, it may have looked perfectly on the ground and centered, but another camera, it could have been 6 feet ahead or 6 feet behind, or maybe 5 feet floating in the air. And those are things I've noticed while labeling these image clips, is that these cameras are not calibrated properly. And so what looks true in one camera will not be true in another camera.
If the cameras aren't seeing the same thing, they can encounter significant challenges identifying obstacles. We can see this in an autopilot crash similar to Stephen Hendrickson's near Los Angeles in 2021. The journal obtained a rare set of raw data for the Tesla in this crash from an anonymous hacker. When a crashed pickup truck becomes visible on the road, one of the car's cameras sees it, but the other doesn't. Then, as the obstacle gets closer, the Tesla doesn't recognize it, and it crashes at full speed. Getting this degree of information off a Tesla after it crashes is nearly impossible for the average driver. Tesla says they provide drivers with hundreds of data points with granularity down to the millisecond in a user-friendly format. But that information doesn't show the exact decisions
Probably
Autopilot
also a
made.
company-friendly
Those details
format,
need
too.
to be extracted from the car's internal computer.
A Tesla is pretty much a computer on wheels. I work on salvage Teslas, usually in accidents, wrecks. I've seen a lot of videos where it's captured a lot of the drivers being reckless. And I've seen videos where it gives you that question mark of like, how did that happen? And it makes you curious, like, was it the driver or was it the autopilot?
The video only tells part of the story. The data on the car's computer gives a fuller picture.
The computers, they all report data and link to Tesla mothership. And we have the computer up.
Diaz sends Autopilot computers he doesn't need across the country to a hacker who then extracts the information. Janelle Hendrickson has not been able to get data from her husband's car. Her lawyers requested it over a year ago. Tesla says they're in the process of gathering it.
It's actually been really difficult to get any information about this. We know that Tesla themselves has all the video and all the information, but they will not share it.
One thing that's not reflected in the car's data is the driver's confidence in the technology.
He trusted that autopilot, obviously, with his life. He trusted it with my kids' lives. He said that it let him be a little bit less worried when he was driving so much. He'd leave about 3 a.m. to get to work by 6 all over SoCal.
If the cars do a pretty good job, not perfect, but pretty good, we develop a false sense of trust in them. And this overconfidence it's both coming from the levers of the tech, but it's also coming from the top down.
The Model S and Model X at this point can drive autonomously with greater safety than a person. We've gone over this multiple times, like, are we sure we have the right sensor suite? Should we add anything more? No. The car currently drives me around Austin most of the time with no interventions.
The Department of Justice is investigating Tesla for its marketing of Autopilot. Tesla disputes claims they misled the public about the car's capabilities. Janelle Hendrickson's case against Tesla is set to go to trial in 2025.
People are still going to buy Tesla. They're still going to support Elon Musk. Doesn't matter how many accidents there are. But at least understand your car and understand your car's capability before you just put your entire life behind that.
Computer vision is such a deeply flawed technology, and we're not doing enough to determine how to fix its gaps and how to make it recognize objects. I look into my crystal ball, what do I see coming? I see that having the car do most of the driving for you and requiring you to pay attention to make sure nothing bad happens, I don't think this is going to be a long-term technology that we're going to keep in the cars.
Well, any thoughts from you guys about that? About that 11-minute video?
So I have a question. Tesla, okay, I know that the whole FSD thing, he's been promising it since forever, right? So
Yes.
like so many years, people paid for it, didn't get it, blah, blah, blah. Is it available now? Like for all the cars?
I believe they call it like their beta system that they currently have available in the cars. So this is part of the thing that they were getting into, that, the government is planning to sue them for potentially for false advertising. So
Yeah,
they have level 2 driving like every other car has, and that's what's available right now. They've just been marketing it as FSD, but it's not level 3.
Okay, level 2 driving is what? Like, because this seems a lot more than like what I'm used. So
yeah,
I have
level 2 is
I have
like
Volvo.
lane
lane assist, it
control,
does,
lane,
like the
yeah,
whatever.
that shit.
Cruise
So
control.
they have sort of
yeah.
this part of level 3. That's why it's called like FSD beta, where it can drive you around and things, but it's beta. And guess who the beta tester is? You.
Right. Yeah, because like when I'm using my car and I, put it on where it like controls the steering wheel and stuff and like sees the lines on the road, like it still makes you hold the steering wheel the whole time.
And they're
right. And I
supposed
still
to in the Tesla car. And,
okay,
but
that was my question.
Another thing that was brought up in there is that, when you have a company that promotes it as full self-driving or autopilot, it gives people the mistaken impression the car can just drive itself. And on top of that, at the same thing that she also mentioned, it's not just from the company aspect, it's from humans and how they interact with this technology. If you've seen the car, like the guy said, like he's used to it driving itself, doing just fine. If you get lazy in how you're supervising the car, as humans tend to do, then if it makes a mistake, you're not going to be paying attention when it makes a mistake, because you get lulled into that false sense of security that the car can drive itself. So I don't need to babysit it. And then you have problems like this. A lot of people have said that, the way that we have it set up currently, where the car is the one that's driving all the time and we're supposed to babysit it, humans are really bad at that. And it should be the other way around. We're driving and the car babysits us. So if we're about to plow into a car in the other lane because we don't see it, the car goes, I don't fucking think so, bro.
Yeah, like my car will stop, like if there's a pothole too big, it'll be like beep beep beep. I'm like, all right, calm down. So, but do most cars, I mean, do they use the camera sensors or do they use other different types of
Most
sensors?
cars use, like they said during the video, use they use the cameras, and then they use radar kind of sensing to
like
see what's around it.
LiDAR or
And then they
something
use
like that?
LiDAR for cars in front of you to judge distance, and be able to make calculations on, okay, the car is that far ahead of us and we're driving this fast, so we need to manage the speed to make sure that you're not going to get into a wreck.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's still new. This is all brand new. We're at the beginning.
And
of
that's
the future.
why my biggest problem with Tesla doing the beta testing with regular people, as opposed to like, it's brand new technology. And like she said at the end of the video, one of the experts they had on, that it's like a lot of this AI learning and stuff that we're just throwing out into the wild is bad tech in a lot of ways. And to have people be beta testing this live on live roads with actual lives on the line is reckless, to say the least.
Agreed, but it's also being regulated by humans as well. Just as they said, humans decide what the AI is going to do. That's where we've got to have those standards and probably trust in Gen AI a little bit to make that be successful.
Like if they market it as like PSD, right? Rather than like as a partial, right? Then that would be totally fine, right?
To the family. Condolences to the family,
right? That sucks.
They always say, you're supposed to still, it's beta. So you need to be aware of all times. And at the same sense, they're not going to rely on that company. The company has to fix it before they're going to tell anything that happened. They're going to fix the problem. They're going to have a solution before they say, hey, you know what? This did happen. This did occur. That's why it probably took so long. They've got to cover their...
My personal opinion on that is they should just pull it all together. Like, until they get it to where it's safe to drive on the road. Because again, like we said, it's part of that human element of, once you've driven so long in a car and you trust it to just do it on its own because you've seen it do it so many times, then your brain checks out.
Right.
And that's when problems happen.
That's like a human problem. That's why I said they should just call it something else, because it's obviously not full self-driving, clearly, right? Like that's not what it is. And even like 1,000 accidents, although like that's not great, but humans probably have got into way more than that on their own, versus a Tesla. Like, I mean, you shouldn't even consider it, I guess, like driving for you, right? It's just like driving with you, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's why I think, like, a lot of people have said that it's probably going to end up the other way around. Like I said, where like the technology just isn't there. And so it's better that it's the humans doing the driving. They have to pay attention. They're the driver. And you just have systems like you normally have on level 2, systems designed to basically, you're doing a big stupid. Don't do the big stupid, or the car takes over if you are about to do the big stupid. Because a program will do what it's told to do, and it's much better than a human at supervising things.
Right. Yeah, driver assist, exactly. That's what it should be called, like driver something. Where
I forgot the chats there. I had the chat closed.
I'm always paying attention. What's up, chat?
But as far as
that's why I platinum here, to take care of the chat, because I'm negligent at the wheel.
But as far as them holding off, you know, the reason the company can't hold off is because it can't move forward. You know, we all know, because we get in the trade game every day, if a company doesn't have revenue, it doesn't have that consistency, it's not going to grow.
Well, I think that's part of the
they have to
problem.
put something out there, but I mean, I have noticed Tesla expanding in other aspects as well, because of all the issues, you know, they've been having anyway, with, you know, Elon Musk and all that mess.
I know,
well,
right?
I think
With
that's
Twitter.
part of the problem is a lot of the price has been leaning heavily on this full self-driving and robo-taxis. They've once again pushed back the robo-taxi event from August 8th to October 10th due to, I think, a lot of the stuff that's being confirmed that the technology is just not there. It, like, I like, maybe you can pull up the chart and I can screen share it. Do you know how to do screen share scrolling?
Not on here, but actually I'll see it. Sure.
Yeah, it's like the middle button where it says share screen, like right next to the camera. And then you can pick which thing you want to share.
All right. Let's see.
And we can just look over the Tesla chart here, because I know when earnings came out, there was, you know, a downtrend, but it didn't stay down for all that long.
I know,
and it's kind of mostly rebounded, I think.
Yeah, I like playing Tesla options just because it's so volatile. Like, I love when Tesla like shits the bed or like fucking like goes to the moon all in one day. Yeah, like I just love how volatile it is. It's crazy. But I mean, they make money. It's not like they're not making money.
The problem that they're having is that revenues have been kind of tapering off. Like,
no, I'm looking at it right now. It's not tapering.
Did it?
Here.
Or maybe I just heard
quick.
wrong. Financials. Oh, there's just scrolling. Bingo. There we go. Oh, wow. It really stretches that. Let me do something to remedy this. That didn't help. Your monitor is too big for my screen.
Maybe you can pick a different one and use that.
Or maybe try not maximizing it and then kind of manipulate it. See if that, like, because I know you've done that platinum where you kind of manipulate the blocks in it.
Yeah, I never have anything on maximum on my screen except for gaming.
So I'm looking at last quarter Q2. Revenues were up. Operating income was down. Net income was down. So they had higher revenue, but there was some other expenses, I guess, that played in there, because revenue was up, but overall earnings was down. Here, let me try and did that fix it? Yeah, there you go, sir. So I'm going to switch my screen share real quick. And I'm just going to briefly take yours down so we can look at this real quick. But yeah, that's what I have. So we have total revenue up 2.3% to $25.5 billion. Operating income 1.6, that's down 33%. Net income net income 1.48 billion, down almost 50%. So jeez. I'm not exactly sure what caused that, but
okay. Well, hold on. Look at this.
Looks like SG.
I mean, you can see right there, Tesla's earnings hasn't been well already since they had the fires. in the warehouses and the actual
Mhm.
plants. So I mean, they've had a rough couple of years anyway.
Well, you also have to. I think what happened, because you had that steep drop off I can see on your chart between Q4 2023 and Q1 2024. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the economic situation that we're dealing with right now. Like Tesla is not the only car company that's kind of gotten punched in the face. All of them kind of have, and I think it has a lot to do with consumer income is being weakened as the Fed continues to hold interest rates high, continues to kind of more or less strangle the economy. So a lot of these discretionary companies are just not doing well.
I kind of wonder how much Elon Musk is really involved in this anymore. He's had so much trouble getting his money. He's had so much trouble getting his permission to be able to run the company like he wants. And he's really focused on SpaceX. I feel like that's where all his focus is at this point.
That could be.
And Twitter, he spends most of his days
a lot of time on Twitter.
It does, yeah. He's got to get that political out there, He likes to be heard.
Right.
And don't they have a bunch of debt that needs to be paid off too? Or no?
Let me look at that balance sheet.
They do, I believe. The last time I looked at it. But
SpaceX, yeah.
No,
SpaceX.
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. Oh, yeah. Because it was a leveraged buyout. Don't tell Morantz that it was a leveraged buyout. That'll get his spidey senses going.
Equity. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to bring up really quick. We'll come back to your charts, sir. So this Friday, we'll be able to hear arguments. We'll probably get something after the effects to it, reporting on it, because the Delaware Court of Chancery is not very good about transcripts, stuff like that. And I don't know if you've dealt with File and Serve Express, or as I like to call, arm a leg in your first child for documents. When I was following the AMC case, they wanted to charge you. You know how it is on Pacer to search for documents. It's really cheap, like pennies on the dollar. They wanted $20 for a docket search.
Wow, jeez.
And they were charging like magnitudes of that for like if I wanted one of the documents, I think that like one of them was like $80 to $100. I'm like,
what the hell?
Like,
that's crazy.
Exactly. It's extortion.
You get like a press pass or something, and get some sort of like media.
Like there's some cheat codes. Like you can become a you want to appear on the docket, you can become a pro se filer, and then you can end up on the docket, and then you get served with all the papers for free.
Don't want that.
But
what is going on here?
So basically, the arguments.
Oh, this again?
So because back. So a little bit of backstory here. So Tesla had its shareholders vote, basically saying that they were moving to Texas. Their incorporation from Delaware to Texas, and that they were re-voting on the share compensation package. So Friday, August 2nd, we get to see if that rectifies the ruling. Hint, hint, it probably fucking won't.
You don't think it will, really?
No, absolutely not.
Man.
Not
At
only
the shareholder meeting?
because not only because the compensation package was ruled that Elon Musk controlled the Tesla board of directors so basically it was breach of fiduciary duty. You can't just we're going to do it right this time, guys. We're promise. And also them moving to Texas doesn't mean anything because, this case took place in Delaware. It started in Delaware. Delaware still has jurisdiction. I mean, you subjected yourself to Delaware court. So them moving to Texas also doesn't change that problem. Basically that's what this Friday hearing is about, is going over that shareholder vote. Also, there's pretty good arguments there that Elon coerced shareholders by saying that if he didn't get the compensation package, he'd leave Tesla, and that he basically stole a bunch of AI NVIDIA chips and gave them over to XAI, just different shenanigans like that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
get
At
the
this
feeling.
shareholder meeting, like so many different shareholders, when they were asking him questions, were like, "Congratulations on your pay package," blah blah blah. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well, that's because it's like my statement has always been that Tesla is the original meme stock. Like,
oh hell
that,
yeah, absolutely.
that is
Like if you want like a cult stock, like Tesla's the OG cult stock right there. It still is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. You should see these people. Like, I one time slipped in, like when the verdict first came out, into one of these Tesla shareholder X spaces. Man, it sounded an awful lot like an MMTLP space. How dare they deny Musk the compensation? He is God incarnate. Don't you understand? And it's just like, I think I've been here before, and just switch Elon Musk for John Berta, and everything would be
big difference. No, that's a big difference. Like Tesla produces actual products. Like I've driven a Tesla; they're super nice. You know what I mean?
I'm saying,
like,
but the same,
super
sentiment.
fast.
But like the same sentiment.
I know. Like, well, I mean, they like Elon Musk, right? Clearly,
yeah, they do. He's a popular guy. I mean, he's more of a showboat, nowadays than.
Yeah, he.
I still think he's legit at heart.
He tells them a lot of things at the shareholder meeting about how like he's changing the world, basically. Like he does a lot of fluffing up of things, it feels like.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he did say the taxi stuff would be in like August, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
they bumped it back to October.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like Tesla is more of his passion, and SpaceX, is more of his job, and SpaceX is more of his passion. I think he's more focused on SpaceX than he is Tesla. Like Tesla was like the beginning, but then he got a taste for going to Mars, and he's like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to be the new Columbus,
So Lawrence Fozzie, or as he's known on, I believe on X, he's the Montana Skeptic. He's a big name, I think, accountant and lawyer. I haven't like followed him directly, but I followed his account before, so I vaguely know a little bit about him. But the biggest thing out of this Substack article heading into Friday that was interesting to me is this part here, part A. Tesla would risk exclusion from the S&P 500. Slapping a $25 billion compensation expense onto Tesla's books would wipe out its profit in 2024 based on the Q2 results. Tesla's annual profits right now works out to $5.9 billion. So a $25 billion compensation expense would ensure that Tesla has a massive loss of approximately $19 billion this year. Well, you might say many shareholders would overlook a one-time hit to profits. Fair enough. It's just a one-time expense. Perhaps that would be true if such a one-time expense would not place Tesla in peril of exclusion from the S&P 500. S&P eligibility requires, among other things, positive GAAP income for the trailing 4 quarters as well as in the current quarter. Companies admitted to the S&P 500 which later failed to meet eligibility criteria can be excluded and are then not permitted to reapply for readmission for another year.
Wow.
Now, I assume that they would get some sort of grace period to, like we've seen with a lot of these different exchanges have and stuff like that. They're not just going to immediately kick them off, but it is a threat that some people, if you are a long-term Tesla holder, should consider if this pay package gets reapproved.
So if it was approved in 2018, why would it come out this year?
Because
is that like when it vests or
because
something?
since it was rescinded by the court, then.
So did they already have to claim that pay package as like in their books?
Yeah, because the verdict already went against it. So it may be that they're already still just counting it on the books and this is meaningless, but I thought it'd be a good point to at least discuss it if they did take it off the books because they were ordered by a court to, like, this compensation package does not exist anymore. So it really depends on going through the 10K and seeing what the accountant said. Is the pay package still being considered in the gap, or is it not, or what's going on? Because if they have taken it off and they need to put it back on, then that's a problem. But if it's already there and they're still treating it like it exists, then maybe it isn't such a big problem.
So how would this affect the shareholders? Do you not think someone else wouldn't pick Tesla up?
If it gets kicked off the S&P 500, that means all of the S&P institutionals that basically had their ETFs that track SPY and all those, retirement funds and everything, they're dumping their Tesla shares because they're not on the S&P and they're just tracking the S&P. Now, is this is more of like a hypothetical threat, because I think I would assume that the S&P has some sort of grace period thing and stuff like that. But it is something to consider if you're a long-term Tesla holder.
Well, not only that, but if they already charged them for the compensation expense before and then took it away, wouldn't that be like refunding them for it, right? And then they would have to put it back. Like, I don't know how it works technically, so I'd have to look
one of those things that
it's
you'll
definitely
need
something to think
read.
about.
It's one of those things that you'll need to read, like the 10K and the 10Q, see what the accountants are saying, see what the company's saying. Have they taken it off? Is this something that you need to calculate for? Because if it is, this was just but that's basically all I wanted to cover with that. If you guys had any final thoughts on Tesla while I queue up our next to do.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm just looking at the 10K right now, so go ahead.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Oh, no, he's
gone. You froze him with your magical powers, Platinum. Oh, no.
Sorry.
So while you're pulling up the 10K and while Scrollin figures out, I don't know, if the dog chewed on his Ethernet cord or whatever the case may be, here, I'm going to...
Maybe it would be in 2019 if it got approved in 2018.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at this.
Yeah. That's something that we can dig into and follow up on maybe next time on Extra, or you can report it Saturday.
On Saturday. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. No. Speaking of stuff we did Saturday. So on Monday, Andrew Left surrendered to federal agents on those federal securities charges in LA and is due in court. I assume that they've already set bond and everything. So, I mean, this was back from Monday. So
yeah, I think he went to court on Friday. Right. And probably already posted bond and is back at his mansion. So,
yeah. I mean, it was never going to be a big issue. He's not a flight risk. I mean, he's got enough money, I would think, to cover bond. I think that's a pretty straightforward thing here. But what I wanted to get caught up on, since Friday, we all were reading the complaint and eating popcorn and everything. I wanted to give a secondary opinion on to kind of, maybe look at it from a different couple of angles. There's the Bear Cave, which posted their report article on it. I'm more interested in Patrick Boyle's video, which we'll get to, but I wanted to kind of quickly gloss over. Have you read you said there was a video that you'd watched, Platinum? Who's
the same one you're talking about?
Platinum. Okay. So the general electric. So the first part was the commentary and trading around General Electric. This one I think is actually one of the more solid ones, because this was the one where he was basically paid to do the report, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That one, and then the other Namaste stock, he was paid by another fund to basically to write a short report, because they had a short position and they said to him, we need you to put out a report on this. And he said, okay, I'll kill it, basically.
Yeah. So this one, he says, in the activist short industry, this is what was commonly called a balance sheet deal, whereby someone with capital, the balance sheet partner, typically takes a very aggressive short-term position against a stock. Then the activist, in this case, releases a report hoping to cause a decline in the target stock. The balance sheet partner profits. They share a portion of the profits with the activist. Because of regulatory haziness, this practice has become very commonplace, often with anonymous activities and balance sheet partners outside of U.S. jurisdiction.
Oh, like
wow,
Canada.
that's something I didn't even know. That's like see, this is why I also wanted to look at some of these things, because even though like the article is titled "In Defense of Andrew Left," and I'm sure we're going to get to some other stuff, he's like, yeah, this is kind of a legal gray area, and it's kind of dingy.
Well, I mean, if he had just disclosed that he was getting paid, it would be totally
yeah,
legal.
that would have
That's
been
the
totally
thing.
fine. I think he wouldn't have. It wouldn't have mattered. Like,
Right.
hey, I'm doing this report, and by the way, I'm getting paid by. And he doesn't even need to say why. It's just I'm getting paid by
Right.
to do
Getting
this report.
compensated by yada yada.
Mhm.
Right. Like you just have to put it like in teeny little letters at the end of your report. That's all.
And no one
And
will
then
read
you're
it.
in the clear. But
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
say, you can't go around
Mhm.
and say like, oh, in 18
I've never
years,
been
I've never
paid
taken compensation
to
by anyone.
a government official.
Stop it. You can't say that.
So a commentary around trading a VUZI. Let's see here. So this portion of the complaint is puzzling. Let's go through it paragraph by paragraph. So paragraph 114, fine. Then 142. On Friday, December 18, 2020, Left published a tweet through Citron Research Platform telling the market that the company was undervalued and suggesting VUZI was a good buy. Getting emails about shorting VUZI. No way. No way we would short this flyer. Small market cap with a story that's tied to 5G, Amazon, and Plug Power, and COVID. There has to be easy. There has to be easier picking. Still doing research, risk reward, easier on other high flyers.
High flyers. Yeah.
How is this tweet claiming no way we would short this flyer and there has to be easier picking, still doing research, a long recommendation? The tweet doesn't even say Andrew Left is long. At most, this is a recommendation not to short the stock, not a recommendation to invest in the company.
Well, aren't they all technically like recommendations? And clearly he's saying not to go short. So the opposite of that would be long, right?
Yeah.
And wasn't he actually long, or else why would this be in a lawsuit?
He was long. And
right.
later that day, Left admitted to a colleague he had only put out that tweet to see what would come back to me, demonstrating Left had not actually done research on whether VUZI was an appropriate investment recommendation. But he wasn't. I will say, like, this part, like, I sort of get it. This part, I can see where they're saying, but it's like, that's like, it's not a recommendation though. It's just a tweet. Is it a tweet that was made intelligently? Probably not. And part of it is
he literally
like,
did it to see how the market would move. Like that's what he's saying.
Well, I think in that case, then that paragraph by the SEC could be better worded as to what they're saying there. He was saying like,
it seems like he left it very vague. That way he could redirect it depending on what it did, you know?
Well, no. What I'm saying is let me see if I can find that paragraph again. Here it is. When it says, I put out that tweet to see what would come back to me, demonstrating Left had not actually done research as to its appropriate investment. What it should have said is, instead of that, like, this is a problem with how the SEC constructed the paragraph. It should have been demonstrating that Left had not done research and was just manipulating market sentiment or something more to that effect.
What you're saying,
to try and pump the stock that he was long.
So so they're trying to say he put out that tweet simply to get more information on the company, right? Yeah, there would be nothing wrong with that if that's what he was doing, but didn't sound like what he was asking for.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't asking for anyone to give him any research or more information. Like that's not what he was saying.
Yeah, he didn't ask.
Like he could have said that, but he didn't. You know.
That's true. I mean, he didn't ask for
hold on, let's see. After he did the tweet, Business Associate one. So that's one of the ones who worked with the hedge fund. They conducted research over the weekend. by speaking with the company representative and others in an effort to determine if the company was a good long investment. They concluded that it was not an appropriate long investment, telling Left that we can't have enough conviction in this being an actual long. Okay. And then, however, even after receiving research that the company was not a good investment, Left did not remove the tweet. Well, who cares? Nor did he communicate to the market that he did not have the conviction to recommend it as a long investment. Okay.
No moral obligation to communicate to the market that he did not have the conviction as a long investment because he never established it.
Oh, see, he was long. That's the problem. Instead, he sold his stock within 3 days of the tweet, generating profits over $700,000. Like, so,
yeah,
that's close to a flag of a pumper. I'm just saying. That is.
What I think the point is there is that it's going to be a little bit more challenging than the SEC or people may have made out trying to establish intent. I think there's a clear, if you read the SEC's document, there's a clear way that you can establish intent. But also, like, some people day trade and they'll get in and out of a position really quickly, especially if they haven't done a lot of research. And I assume that would be the defense that Andrew Left would do there. It's like, I can trade. But part of that, I think also, you know, there's an argument there that also be like, yeah, you traded after you juiced the stock. So, you know,
are you not required to like say if you have a position or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. I mean, maybe you should be, right? Like maybe that would.
If you're just like, I personally, as a person who is like on YouTube, I'm very sensitive to, I don't want to be getting people into situations. So when I talk about a stock, I try and talk about both the negative and the positive. And I tell people, like, both those I have, like, I actually
TLD.
have, and Kurt, like, I have positions and I make it clear. And I think that that's just good practice. If you're going to talk about a stock, if you have a position, you should disclose it. That's just the honest thing to do.
Right. Well, because I feel like
legal,
if you're one way or the other, you might have like a little bit of a bias, right? So it would be good for the reader or whoever, you know, whoever's listening to you to know, like, okay, maybe this person has a little bit of a bias one way or the other.
And maybe like, and maybe for certain people, it should be, you know, fully disclosed. I know, like, you know, short reporters, they'll put like the thing at the top. It's like, if we post something, you should just assume that we have a position. That's kind of our business model. But like for a lot of these YouTube influencers, they'll just post it, but you'll never hear what their position actually is. And
yeah, but he's not shady. A YouTube influencer, you know,
or just like Twitter.
But I agree. I know exactly what you're talking about, and yeah, I totally agree with that. And it would just be helpful for everyone, like, you know, these type of people, plus even like the random YouTuber, like if that was something that was actually they gave a shit about. You know?
Yeah. And I wish some of these social media platforms, I don't know how you would regulate it on something like Twitter, but I think YouTube, I think it'd be pretty easy to put a, you know, a disclaimer in there, or, you know, I don't know how you would monitor that on social media, but I think it would be much better if like these platforms got out, especially Webull and fucking StockTwits got out in front of that shit, because they're the ones that basically allow open market manipulation in their fucking comment sections and their boat. See, that's the problem I have, is like you get someplace like Webull, or now that StockTwits offers the ability to trade on StockTwits. If you have a social media aspect and you're a broker at the same time, is it not kind of shady that you more or less allow this kind of market manipulation to go on your platform? Like, I get it. You have the disclaimer up there that you should never take any of these comments as financial advice, but really seriously think about that.
You know, so that could definitely be teetered either way, because that's like taking, I mean, you know, whenever you're talking serious about a stock and you mean it, or you're looking at someone like Andrew Tate, you know, it's either a show or it's not. But the financial advisor, that's in the disclaimer. You put it in the disclaimer. I mean, that's the whole purpose. So, but I agree. I mean, take your hits, be honest about them, you know, admit when you mess up, because we all do it. It's the stock market. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're getting some people over on the Twitch side of things. That's good to know, because like I haven't really put a lot of effort into it. I probably should put more into it.
Oh my God. He's like, no effort checking chat.
Well, hey, look, I had a question. I responded to it once. I finally got the
look at
chat
you.
sidebar.
Wow.
So allegations about external capital. I think this one is basically like him having money invested into it is actually a sign that, you know, he believes in his research, as opposed to it being kind of shady, where it's like he is trading parallel with Citron research on some of these reports and things. I think that would be a fine argument if it wasn't like, I think people are confusing that this is like the main element of it, as opposed to like a side element of it. It's like the market manipulation is the key thing. And the fact that he realized his market manipulation and was trading both in like his personal account and the other main account proves that, you know, he was juicing it for his own personal thing. It's not a primary argument. It's a, in addition to this kind of argument. And I think people are getting confused. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing of an explanation. Allegations around the language of Citron's reports. Yeah. So let's go ahead and just skip to the video, because I think Patrick Boyle's video does a much better job.
He announced charges on Friday.
You should do it at like 1.25, so you don't. Well,
don't
actually,
set here for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Let's we'll do it at 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5 is good.
Against the activist short seller Andrew Left and his firm Citron Capital for engaging in an alleged $20 million multi-year scheme to defraud his followers by publishing false and misleading statements. The SEC itself can't file criminal charges, but often works with the Justice Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office to bring criminal charges if needed. And the Justice Department additionally announced a criminal case against Left, accusing him of 17 counts of securities fraud, one count of engaging in a securities fraud scheme, and one count of making false statements to federal investigators. If convicted, he could potentially face decades in prison. According to a statement from the Department of Justice, Left knowingly exploited his ability to move stock prices by targeting stocks popular with retail investors and posting recommendations on social media to manipulate the market and make fast, easy money, the best kind of money. Now, I know my last video was on how pump and dump schemes are now totally legal, but maybe I was wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Luckily, I included that disclaimer in the video. Anyhow, these charges stem from an investigation into illegal trading practices, which was first reported by the Wall Street Journal in February 2022, who reported that the Justice Department...
Yeah, I think this is a good thing to point out that I think was forgotten when this first dropped, is that this is part of an investigation that goes back 2 years into short selling in general. And I think... this is the... I think on part of it, I think it shows how good that financial markets are. Like, I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I just think they're perfect angels out there, but like they went through and thoroughly went through a lot of these like short seller reports, and they got one guy.
So far, what do you mean? They also got Anson Funds, which is, I'm guessing, you know, probably gave them up, and then Hedge Fund 2 guaranteed they're talking to them too. You know what I mean? Like this is just the beginning. It takes a while. I guess we'll see, right? You never know.
Right. Like you said, I don't want to make it sound like it's like everything is just perfect out there, but so far it seems like the majority of the actors are, to our knowledge at this point, good. It seems like a fair way to put it. We may see that if that changes.
How does Andrew Left...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you keep on trying to say something. Good. Sorry.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out. I'll say, so how does Andrew Left correlate with GameStop? Like, how does that?
Oh, so he shorted, or
Here,
said he shorted. Who knows now? But
I know, right?
He said he was going short on GameStop in 2021, right? Citron Research put out a tweet that was like, GameStop to $20 fast, blah, 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 right? So this was before the split. And then he also said he was going short in 2024. So I'm guessing they started investigating him in 2021. But this whole investigation is only for 2018 until 2020. But yeah, he's a like known, GameStop short seller. But like he said he went short in June, and I didn't believe it when he said it then too. I was like, yeah, right. He's probably just saying that because he knows like everyone hates him and they're gonna like buy more, to screw the short seller, yada yada. But he probably just went long.
Okay, all right.
I mean, if he did go,
that's what he was doing.
Yeah,
like he was doing the opposite pretty much.
It's kind of hard because all I've heard about is Keith Gill.
Well, and like I'm sure we'll get the other side of this, but it's not like it's just the crazy people that are saying that this thing looks really shady. I mean, we had Tony Dong on, who's an industry reporter,
Yeah. And he was like, oh.
Yeah, there's no look good. Oh. Like you even had we even talked about other short reporters like Panda Research who were reading it and going, we do things by the books. Apparently, Andrew Left has a different idea of how that works.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with actual short selling and doing real research. That's great. Like there's a lot of shitty scam companies and like doing SEC whistleblower.
If anything,
report.
there's a lot more shitty scam companies than there is good companies out there. Like
Probably,
I think
yeah.
there was some reporting that the vast majority of the research that's come out is the vast majority of the stocks. Like I want to say, they did a research period for I want to say like 20 years, but like only 5% of stocks actually gave real returns to investors. Like I don't quote me on that. It's been a long time since I've seen that, and I wish I had it like available to throw up and show you, but like the vast majority of returns comes from an exclusive minority of the stocks. So you have to always be super vigilant about shitty stocks because they're out there. They exist. They will ruin you.
They issued search warrants the prior year and seized hardware, trading records and private communications from prominent short sellers, including Carson Block of Muddy Waters Research and Andrew Left of Citron Capital, as part of a broad investigation into whether short sellers used illegal trading tactics to drive down stock prices by sharing damaging research reports ahead of time. While short selling is legal, it can be illegal for short sellers to coordinate their trades with one another or to mislead the public about the independence of their research. Back in 2022, it was reported that subpoenas that had been issued asked about the sharing of information between activists betting against companies. Some of the allegations in the SEC complaint and indictment relate to long positions as well as short positions, so this isn't just about shorting stocks. While the SEC said that they were investigating dozens of investment firms and researchers engaged in short selling, the federal prosecutors have so far not announced charges against any other short sellers. So short selling is a trading strategy that seeks to profit from a price decline in a security and involves borrowing shares of a company.
We really already know that. I trust my viewers to be smart. We'll skip over that if I can get past this buffering. There we go. Well, I was past this buffering. Let's let it. I think it's because I'm at plus like an extra 50% bump, and so it's
activist really short sellers like Andrew Left are the most controversial short sellers, as they often publish their research as part of their trading strategy.
Yeah.
If they expose fraud or highlight a serious valuation error, the market might move in their favor more quickly, but they do run the risk of being accused of wrongdoing in what's known as a short and distort scheme, the inverse of a pump and dump scheme. Let's go through the accusations against Left, the evidence provided in the SEC complaint and the indictment, and discuss some of Left's run-ins with securities regulators in the past. A lot of investors and company managers hate short sellers, and they particularly hate activist short sellers, as no one likes a party pooper. But the fact that a financial reward exists for investigating illegal activity and corporate fraud
keeps
a really good
healthy. Sense of humor.
Most experienced investors agree that short sellers play a vital role in markets by exposing fraudulent activity. Research from short sellers famously exposed the fraud at Enron, WorldCom, Wirecard, and the various EV manufacturers like Nikola and Lordstown. It's important that someone is out there searching for wrongdoing and keeping companies honest. The people who get upset about short sellers like to say that they can put good companies out of business. But if a company is in good financial health with cash in the bank and steady cash flows and allegations are false, the company can't really be shut down. A company doesn't go bankrupt because its stock price falls. It goes bankrupt when it can't pay its bills. And during the bankruptcy, the lenders take control of the company. A 2014 paper by Massa, Zhang, and Zhang shows that the existence of short selling in a market is good for investors, as short sellers affect the behavior and incentives of corporate managers. In markets where short selling is possible, there are fewer aggressive accounting tactics being employed by corporate managers, and that's beneficial to investors who are less likely to lose money to a fraud. I'll link to that paper in the description. It's worth noting that another
Another
way
reason
short
to go
sellers have been
CPAC
able to make money from uncovering corporate fraud has been through the SEC whistleblower scheme. Due to the SEC's failure to detect Bernie Madoff's...
That is a good thing to also bring up, that a lot of these short reporters, sometimes they don't even short the company. They just do their report and also do the whistleblower reports.
Get that whistleblower money.
Yeah. Free money from the government. Hell yeah.
Exactly.
And that's how they
massive
make their
Ponzi
money.
scheme over its 17-year life, despite being told about it multiple times.
Yeah.
Congress included in the Dodd-Frank Act an SEC whistleblower program, which provides financial awards to whistleblowers who provide original information leading to successful enforcement actions. According to Institutional Investor, that program has paid nearly $300 million to activist short sellers since its creation in 2010, meaning that a lot of fraud has been uncovered by these people, which otherwise could have gone undetected. Andrew Left has been criticized for his use of social media, and a year ago commented on his social media use and the investigation in a Bloomberg interview.
What exactly is the government looking into?
I don't know. I don't know what the government's looking into. I assume years ago, when the investigation started, 6 or 7 years ago, I don't even know when it started, but we're in a different environment that we have right now. You know, when you see 100 million people sign up to threads in a week, it shows you people want their opinions heard, and not just their opinions on what restaurant or what outfit they might wear, but on stocks. So everyone is expressing their stock opinion right now. So the activists are just people who maybe just do extra homework and express their opinion. I don't know what this exact investigation is about, but it has to do with short selling and activist short sellers, obviously.
The SEC's lawsuit against Left documents his social media posts, his published research reports, along with emails and messages he sent between March 2018 and December 2020, and not all of it looks great. Now, the allegations against Left are mostly that he took positions from both the long and the short side, put out reports saying that the stocks he had researched were either great or terrible, depending on his position, tweeted or X'd about it, went on television to discuss his findings with the aim of having as big an impact as possible so that the price would move and he could exit his position with a profit. So far, there's nothing obviously illegal about that. You're allowed to short stocks, you're allowed to publish your research about them, and you're allowed to be a bit rude and outspoken if you wish. Left was always open about the fact that he had a position in the stocks that he was talking about and didn't hide this conflict of interests. His openness about this is what got him into trouble in the GameStop short squeeze back in 2021. This approach can be legally problematic if the stock you're trying to impact is extremely illiquid. If the information you're publishing is false and you know it's false, you are allowed to be wrong, but not to make stuff up. It can be illegal for short sellers to coordinate their trades with one another or to mislead the public about the independence of their research. It can also be illegal to lie about your track record to convince other investors that your opinions carry more weight than they reasonably should. So roughly speaking, you should be okay as long as you're being honest. And that's a bit of a feature of US securities laws, which are mostly about disclosure. The indictment claims that Left publicly claimed the company's share prices were too high or low, often with a recommended target price and an explicit or implicit representation about Citron's trading position. This, they say, created the false pretense that his economic incentives aligned with his public recommendations. He's accused of instead preparing to quickly close out positions after publishing his comments, taking profits on price moves he had caused rather than price moves that relate to his long-term accuracy. The indictment also accuses Left of presenting himself as an independent researcher and concealing his links with a hedge fund by fabricating invoices and wiring payments through a third party. The prosecutors claim that he lied to law enforcement by stating that his firm never exchanged compensation with a hedge fund, while they allege that Left received more than $1 million from two separate hedge funds. Each of the 17 counts of securities fraud carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison, while the securities fraud scheme carries a maximum term of 25 years, and the count of a false statement to a postal inspector carries a maximum term of 5 years. After reading that, I'm planning on being a lot more honest with my postman when he asks me if I'm having a good day. He can expect a detailed and honest reply going forward. So while Left appears to have mostly targeted big liquid stocks in his reports, he did also go after some smaller, less liquid stocks, which could be more problematic. But it's not obvious that he generally published information that was false, and that he knew was false. A Wall Street Journal article in 2015 analysed the prior 13 years of his short-selling reports and found that the stocks he recommended shorting fell by 42% on average over the next year, implying that while his reports were influential, they were influential because they were generally accurate. His reports were allegedly quite detailed.
I get what he's trying to say there, that the like his reporting isn't inaccurate. I don't doubt that his reports were accurate. I think that's part of what made his scheme effective, was that he was known for being a good researcher and that his reports were generally accurate. That's why he knew that he had such influence and exploited that influence, which is, I think, what the SEC is trying to get at. So
that makes sense. I mean, it's crazy how this affects. Yeah, I mean, just watching this and talking about, he has merit, That's as an influencer. So that's why they're even attacking him like that. But there's so many people on YouTube at a smaller scale who do the same thing each and every day.
And that's the problem, I think, with it is you have to, as the SEC, you have to kind of pick your targets because you only have so much funding, so much resources. And so generally, like, they'll go after the Andrew Leffs of the world because the paycheck for them is good, that they'll get a guy who's a big name. But there's a lot of little
people like banking with Billy at a smaller scale who is growing, but they don't even get to they don't even look at him. You know, and then they get the guy that's in the media, which, I mean, I'm not saying they're you know, something doesn't.
It would be nice if they could take care of all things, but there's always going to be stuff that slips through the cracks.
Well, Congress has to raise the budget for the SEC so that they can hire more people, so they can actually like take care of more things.
I agree.
Hey-yo. Nice tuxedo. Are we talking about scrolling here with the tuxedo? Because I'm not wearing it. Oh, I know what we're joking about. Yeah.
Yeah. How they think you're wearing a tuxedo. I love that. No. That's so amazing.
Oh yeah.
They call the trilby a fedora, the trench coat a tuxedo. Like, I get it. None of these people all dress like slobs. So they have no idea what actual style looks like.
Yeah, I know. They'll come around to it.
In the next paragraph, they claim he didn't really have that big of a following. Must have missed that. Do you know what CSI is talking about there, Platinum?
I'm not sure. Let me look. Wait.
I'm going to keep the video going while you look that up.
Yeah, do that.
Oh no,
and pointed out real issues. This is quite different to the influencer pump and dump scheme that I covered in last week's video. As I mentioned earlier, short-selling funds don't tend to have positive long-term returns, and this is because the stock market generally rises. According to HFRX, they've lost a bit over 10% per year over the last 10 years. The fact that Leff's recommendations had a positive return at all implies that he was much better than average at this. A big part of the complaint relates to holding periods and target prices, where Leff is accused of announcing to the public that he had a position and was in it for a much longer-term move than his trading activity shows. An example from the SEC report is of a stock that he bought and promoted, saying that he expected it to trade to $100 per share over the next 2 years, adding that he would increase his position at current market levels. He's alleged to have then sold some shares the next day at a profit and appears to have traded in and out of it at prices well short of his target price. The complaint alleges that he later discussed juicing the stock by tweeting about it with a colleague. The question is whether it's illegal to say that you'll hold for 2 years and then sell the next day, or to say that you think a stock will hit $100 but exit your position at $28. And I guess we'll find out. The complaint says that the defendant's statements to the market that they would take one action when they really intended to take another were materially false and misleading and deceptive. The complaint does not mention that 2 years later, the stock in question was at $28 a share, up 40%, or that it peaked in December 2020 at $56, having more than doubled. Investors who bought and held for exactly 2 years, as per his original recommendation, would have made money, but he had moved on to other things by then. I would point out that it's pretty much always a mistake to buy a stock on a recommendation like this, as if someone on TV tells you that you should make an investment, you likely won't be around to get an update should they change their mind at some point.
The inverse Kramer is a great example of that. Yeah. And that's kind of like the fuzzy gray area a lot of these pump and dump schemes kind of fall into. Usually with something like Atlas, where it's really rare that you get someone explicitly explaining how they think what they're doing is an illegal fucking scheme. How they got away with got a motion to dismiss on that will baffle me to no end.
Yeah, but like, not with prejudice. So
yeah, right. So it's on appeal right now, so we'll see where things go.
Yeah,
but like, it's very rare you get something like that. And what Patrick is bringing up is that, like, what's going to be difficult to prove is the intent with a lot of these. It's like maybe his opinion changed. Maybe his intent wasn't to juice the market on some of these stocks. There's some of them where he explicitly, it sounds like he's explicitly saying that. And it'd be a lot more easier. But some of them, you know, it could be just that his opinion changed, and he's free to have an opinion change. And like we said before, this is kind of the weakness of people who make these proclamations on social media. They have no responsibility to you to tell you that you've changed your position or that you've sold or anything like that. So
I guess
it kind
the
of
shady thing is like the whole setting limit orders before he even plans to put out the
that
report.
one, yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like
I'm sure he gets to this. I think
like
I'm pretty sure.
clearly you're just doing it because you know you're going to move the market in the direction that you want. Like, is that legit or is that like misleading and manipulative? Right? Like, 'cause I would say like something like that. You know, when you're not like. Maybe disclose that you have a limit order or whatever. Like, obviously, no one's going to do that, but you know, that's what he should. Also, for the following thing, the only thing I can see is where it says that Left in Citron Research had a substantial following. On Twitter alone, Citron Research had more than 100,000 followers.
He says what paragraph is the first one, I guess, is what he was referencing. Had a reputation with investors and the power to move the market. Defendant Left selected a targeted security about which he intended to publish commentary with. And I'm not sure if that's in the SEC or if that's the federal complaint. I assume it's the federal complaint because that's the one.
Okay. I'm looking at the SEC complaint, so maybe it's different.
Yeah, the one that was brought by the DOJ is a little different. It's also in that grandma's typewriter style font. All right, I'll keep going.
In the future. Most of the SEC complaint is about how Left's holding periods were much shorter term than he claimed in his announcements and that he exited positions well below his stated target prices. This is not great, it's definitely not honest, but the complaint seems to possibly deliberately avoid digging into the actual content of his report and whether the substance of his research was accurate or not. It would be much more of a problem if his research was inaccurate and just released to move a stock price, and they don't seem to be accusing him of that. The complaint highlights in its description of the defendant that the Hong Kong Futures and Securities
This is the one thing that I wanted to bring up because I remember reading it and going, I remember something about this, and Patrick's going to bring it up here, but it's
barred Andrew Left from trading securities in Hong Kong for 5 years. It leaves out that this ban related to a report he had written on the Chinese property developer Evergrande, saying that it was insolvent and had consistently presented fraudulent information to the investing public. Evergrande, of course, collapsed in 2021 when they were unable to pay the interest on their debt. It turned out that they had consistently presented fraudulent information to the public. And I think that the Hong Kong Futures and Securities Commission came out of this worse than Andrew Left. The complaint additionally highlights.
That's the one thing there that I knew about that, like, it didn't register when we were going over it Saturday, but when you file a complaint with a court, that's like your opening narrative and having, like, I get that they were trying to find things to like drive the hammer home, but that's something you probably could have left out.
Well, why did they bar him though? Because they can't just bar him for making.
Oh, yes, they can, because it's the
they
CCP. Did? They just banned him because he was talking shit about Evergrande. That was the reason.
That's really it.
He was manipulating the markets by producing a short report on Evergrande, and they kicked him out.
Could he not find that?
He got fined by the CCP more or less for talking shit about one of their boys, because we know that the housing sector in China was one of the big things holding up their economy, and it's why they're struggling right now. Like, you know, Evergrande isn't the only one of these real estate companies that have ate shit over there since 2020, and so they were just protecting their own interests, and that's basically what that whole 5-year ban was for. It has nothing to do with Andrew Left doing anything bad. It has to do with the CCP trying to, you know, be duplicitous pieces of shit, as communist countries tend to be.
Okay. All right. But why was he sanctioned from?
Yeah, that's what he's going to get into.
That Left was sanctioned by the NFA for making false statements to sell commodity futures contracts when he worked at Universal Commodity Corp. This is a lot worse. From what I can find online, this firm sounds like a boiler room operation where he worked for 9 months while he was at university. All former employees of this firm, including Left, were sanctioned in 1998. It appears that he had stopped working there in 1994. Left told the Wall Street Journal that what he had seen at UCC inspired him to become a short seller, and he started investigating and shorting stocks that were being promoted in online scams. He started a website called StockLemon.com, which later became Citron Research. Seems he wanted to French things up a bit. Left is, of course, well known as one of...
So I get what the SEC is trying to say. That they're trying to say, oh, he's had a history of this, but like the way it sounds, it's like, dude made a mistake when he was in college and he owns it and says that this is the reason I started doing this. Is it possible that he, you know, kept doing these things? It's possible, but like, that's a weak argument. I wouldn't have included it in the complaint. I don't know about the rest of you.
Well, if you're the SEC, the first thing you probably do is look at any sort of like sanctions or whatever he's had, and of course you're going to list it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what other choice do they have?
Well, I also think why it's only briefly in there. Both of those they know are weak arguments. It's like we're going to bring these up, but we're not really going to fight over them.
Sort of any, ban from whatever, this, that, or the other thing. Like, it's just, one sentence there and then another sentence, about the other thing.
And we move on. Yeah.
Like, I guess, I didn't even look into it because I didn't really think it was a big deal, when I first
read
and
it didn't sound like it was the way Patrick explains it. He worked for 9 months there and,
Well, even when I just read it on my own, I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like 98, who cares? It was so long ago.
Pretty much.
And then the other one, like, I don't really care about that either. But then when you know about it, it does seem like, okay, well, it's really, really not that big of a deal. But I can see why they would include it because they are official things that happened.
Sanctions, yeah.
Of the short sellers who lost money in a 2021 battle with meme stock investors, eventually closing out his short position in GameStop with large losses and halting the publication of his short reports after he said that an angry mob of fanatical GameStop shareholders harassed him. The story was well documented in Nathaniel Popper's book Trolls of Wall Street. Leff told the Wall Street Journal that he did make a profit this summer when he bet against GameStop again, but he said that he had learned from his experience in 2021 not to make large bets on cult stocks. The SEC accuses Leff of touting Citron Capital as a successful hedge fund with double and triple-digit returns by writing investor letters that he publicly posted. They highlight that he never managed any outside capital and that Citron Capital was a vehicle to trade his own money. On the next page, for a bit of contrast, they say that Leff presented Citron Research as publishing independent research and held himself out as a private investor, which is what they just said he was on the prior page. To me, it adds more weight to his belief in his research that he was betting his own money rather than customer money, as if things went wrong, he personally took the hit. A lot of the accusations are about him boasting to colleagues that he could move the market with a single tweet, that he could destroy or kill companies because he had a hot voice, meaning that people listened to him. He doesn't come off well in any of these quotes, but there's not much in the complaint showing that he published false information. Most of the criticism is that he didn't hold his positions as long as he said he would, and that he exited positions before they hit his price targets.
I think that's the key part of the complaint. It's like they're not saying that he lied in the reporting. He lied in his disclosure of what he was doing, which was contradictory to what he was reporting. And I think that's kind of the big point here is Andrew Leff had a reputation as being a good researcher, and he used that to manipulate public perception and profit by doing the opposite of what he said he thought the stock should do. Or to get out early and exploit, a pop based on the news he was giving, like you said, with the whole limit order thing.
Yeah. Like giving $100 price target and then exiting at $24. It's like,
It'd be one thing if like months down the road, you exit at $24 because you're like, okay, maybe it isn't moving like I thought it would. But it was like, what'd you say, mere days after?
Right. Like one of the things the SEC was asking was that he wouldn't be able to trade within 5 days of any publication. Like, I feel like that's fair, because that would totally destroy his strategy, and also like, what's 5 days? 5 days isn't even a lot anyways.
Yeah. Especially for us, like regular Joe investors with not even 25,000 in account to our name, where you get the pattern day trader slap. You get the ruler slap from your broker. It's like you traded a stock, you day traded 3 times in a row. Naughty. You just
need a cash.
You can just get around
all the pores.
Well, not just that, but you can get around that by just taking all your money out, opening a new account, closing the old one. You didn't hear that from me though.
Every week? That's
his
a lot
price
of work.
targets were.
No. Like, wait, every week. No, I'm saying that if you ever get flagged for pattern trader, like you get the full restrictions.
Well, you can actually call it usually and get it taken off at least once. Don't ask how I know.
But if you do get stuck, just open a new account, move all the funds into the new account, close the old account.
Or just switch to a cash account.
Yeah.
I mean, now that 1 day settlement, like that's nothing.
Yeah.
Possibly exaggerated for dramatic effect. The indictment alleges that Left used his advanced knowledge and control over the timing of a market-moving event to build his positions using inexpensive short-dated options contracts that expired from the same day that he published his commentary to within 5 days. Left also allegedly submitted limit orders, often prior to publication of his commentary, to close his positions as soon as the company shares reached a certain price, and at prices vastly different from the target prices that Left recommended to the public. If you're talking up a stock on TV while you have limit orders in place to sell it into a spike, that seems dishonest to me. I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm not sure how illegal it is as long as you're not spreading false information, which they don't appear to be accusing him of. He could make the argument that cutting his size into price spikes was just risk management, and while that doesn't sound all that likely to me, it might be hard to prove what someone was thinking at the time they entered a trade. Left is accused of providing some hedge funds with advance notice of his reports so that they could make trades in advance of the report being released. The indictment says that Left was provided compensation by at least one hedge fund and that he misled investors by stating his reports were the result of his own independent research and were not shared with any other investors before publication. The indictment doesn't identify any large hedge funds that he's accused of working with, but the SEC complaint accuses him of receiving compensation from Anson Funds, a Dallas-based hedge fund, in connection with critical reports on two stocks. This part is the most damning section of the SEC complaint, which alleges that in September 2018, Anson advisors contacted Left about issuing a short recommendation on a Canadian marijuana stock called Namaste. In exchange, it's alleged that Anson advisors agreed to pay Left a share of its fund's profits from its short position. Left allegedly agreed to the arrangement and responded, "Done, let me kill it." Left bragged that these retail holders are nervous, we'll hit them. The complaint says that Left and the portfolio manager worked together to prepare short reports and tweets, which Citron Research published in September and October 2018. Left gave a price target of 25 cents on the stock. In a Bloomberg interview, he said that he would keep shorting Namaste till it goes to zero. The complaint says that 10 minutes later, he asked the portfolio manager if they should cover their short position. The position was allegedly covered at prices ranging between $1.42 and $3. And my more mathematically inclined viewers will have already noticed that zero does not fit anywhere within that price range. The question here is whether Left really believed that Namaste was a terrible stock, or if he just said it was in exchange for payment. In October 2018, he's alleged to have messaged Portfolio Manager 1 and requested that Anson establish a short position in another cannabis stock, ICG, and share the profits with him. The Portfolio Manager allegedly agreed to pay a share of its fund's profits from trading around Citron Research's bearish tweets on ICG. This doesn't seem as bad to me, as this time it was at least his own idea to publish the report. Left is then accused of taking steps to conceal that he was being compensated by Anson by asking Anson to send him his share of trading profits through a third-party intermediary, to which Anson agreed. The complaint says that the third-party intermediary then submitted invoices to Anson Funds for research services that the third-party intermediary never performed, and inaccurately stated that the amounts invoiced were for their own benefit when in fact they were for the benefit of Left. Anson...
Oopsies.
Yeah. Like I had actually like tweeted about this, like in the same, I think this was yesterday he came up with this video, right? Or something like
yes,
it was pretty recent.
because I watched it yesterday. I was listening to it. Like usually what I do is like I'm working on something and I'm listening to these videos to try and catch up on them.
Same.
And most of this,
I was like making dinner.
Yeah. And so most of this I heard, but I must have like zoned out or something during this part because I don't remember this.
Oh my God. Okay. Because this was my tweet yesterday, right? Because like I'm listening to the video and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, Evergrande, like I guess it's not so bad, whatever. And then he was like, okay, but this is like pretty bad. And this is exactly what I tweeted about because it is pretty bad. Like, so Andrew Left, in 18 years of publishing, we have never been compensated by a third party to publish research. The SEC and the DOJ, hedge funds paid him for publishing stock reports and tweets. He tried to hide those payments by using a third-party intermediary and fake invoices. Like, can't do that.
Yeah, like sham invoices. Like that's the part. It's like, okay, he used a third-party guy to shuffle it about. That's pretty fucking shady. That makes you look criminal. And it's like, and then.
For consulting.
Funds allegedly paid the third-party intermediary based on these false invoices, and Left invoiced the intermediary for consultation services, and more than $1.1 million was funneled to Left. I don't really know why he would have wanted to conceal these payments, and maybe we'll learn more as the trial approaches. Another unnamed hedge fund is alleged to have entered into a compensation plan with Left and traded around reports and tweets issued by Citron Capital, paying $2.6 million for the service. The complaint says that by making false and misleading statements to the market that Left and Citron Capital had not and would not receive money from hedge funds, when in fact they had and were receiving payments, Left concealed his own and Citron Capital's financial motivations in issuing publications and perpetuated the false and misleading impression that Citron Research was an independent research firm. It's worth noting that the two cannabis stocks mentioned in this section of the complaint did collapse in value when the cannabis stock bubble burst, but neither Left nor the hedge fund he was working with appear to have held on to their positions long enough to make that long-term return. They exited their positions too quickly. The SEC complaint does not point out any specific lies that were told about the stocks in question. The lies were about the independence of the research and the compensation arrangements in place, along with exaggerated price targets and holding periods. The charge of making false statements to federal investigators relates to this part of the story too, where Left is accused of denying to a postal inspector that there had ever been compensation between him and a hedge fund. There are a lot of allegations of making false or misleading statements in the complaint, mostly relating to whether they were adding to or cutting positions. Examples like telling CNBC that he was extremely short a stock when he had already covered 75% of his short position, or telling readers that he had never been compensated by a third party to publish research when that is alleged to have been untrue. Other examples that the SEC calls misleading half-truths are telling readers that he was long General Electric stock without disclosing that he had limit orders in place to sell, and in fact did sell his GE stock within 65 minutes of publishing his report. Matt Levine at Bloomberg, who was a securities lawyer in a prior career, wrote in his column on Friday that in the government's telling, Left lied about a lot of stuff, his independence, his credentials, and how he got paid, and most crucially, whether he was still long or short the stocks he was writing about. But the government says less about the central things he said to the public, like whether the stocks were good or bad investments. Levine argues that if Left believed those things based on real research and was mostly correct, then he would have a pretty good argument that what he did wasn't really fraud, even if he was dishonest about his own positions and cynical about his audience. If he was just making stuff up to manipulate stocks, on the other hand, there's not much of a defense. John Hempton, an Australian...
Yeah, I don't know so much about that, because like I think what's key about it, and we'll circle back around to CSI's comment here, like in the case of that, like I think what's important there is the time period between when they thought it was going to go up to 100 and when they sold it for $11. Those were years apart, probably, if I'm guessing. Whereas, you know,
these were like minutes to less than 5 days.
Yeah. So like this whole situation, I think is a little different. Like you're clearly making momentum-based trades, not trades based on your research. If he held it for longer periods, like say maybe even a week or whatever, then whatever. Or if he said like, I'm just day trading this on some speculative thing, I don't see it as a long-term trade, then maybe that'd be a different situation. But he like one of them, he said was going to 100 and he decided to jump out at like what, 26 a few days later. So like
exactly. Yeah. It was like 24
so,
or 26. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Oh, well then that's not the person that I thought you were talking about, but oh, well, I mean, yeah, I like, here's the thing is like, I don't know exactly who you're talking about. So if they're saying it's still going to go to 100, but they sold at 11, like,
well, these certain reports, so he wasn't putting out all the reports to profit from the move, well, as far as we know, but definitely these ones in particular, for sure.
And hedge fund manager, wrote about the case on his Substack, arguing that Andrew Left had a good track record and that most of the time when he called something a fraud, he was right about it being a fraud. Hempton argues that given how often he was right, it might be difficult to argue that he didn't believe the words fraud and smoking gun when he said them. Hempton points to Kronos, one of the stocks mentioned in the complaint, and describes that section as self-defeating. He points out that the SEC seems concerned that Left called Kronos a fraud, but that the SEC later charged Kronos with fraud, and Kronos settled. Hempton argues that it will be effectively impossible to argue that Left did not believe Kronos was a fraud when he suggested that it was. After all, he was right. He goes on to say, as for the price target, 6 years later, Kronos is trading almost precisely at Andrew Left's price target. A number of people have pointed out online that if the SEC are going to go after investors who publish outrageous price targets, there are more egregious examples than Andrew Left. Kathy Wood, as an example, has a price target.
I see that one. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Kathy Wood is not a serious person. If you're taking financial advice from Kathy Wood, you should just go ahead and fucking quit now. outrageous Tesla price target of 2,500. Can we get an SEC filing against that bullshit, or her ludicrous price projections on revenue for Tesla based on full self-driving and robo-taxis that are questionable if they'll exist anytime soon, let alone exist at all? Like, I
No one
like,
has more excuses than her.
oh my goodness. Like, hey, can you do me a favor, scrolling? Can you go pull up the price chart for her main ETF fund? What is it called? I know I should know because it's on my short list. ARK, yeah, the ARKK, I think
Is
it is, or
ARK
ARK.
or A, or what is it?
I think it's ARKK. Let me look it up here real quick.
ARK Innovation ETF.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give me that chart and give me a couple. You give us the like from 2020 to now, maybe if you can squeeze that in there without it stretching it, because I kind of want to like Kathy Wood is like one of my mortal nemesis.
Oh no!
Yeah, look at that. Nice. Oh, that's just recently in the past couple hours. Okay, let's.
Yeah, let me change the time frame there. What am I in? Yeah.
Oof, what? It's been doing some rebounding recently.
Oh,
accidental line drawing. Oh no, Fibonacci. We're throwing all sorts of weird stuff out there.
It kind of locked up on me there for a second, so I had to mix it up.
Yeah.
There we go. So let's see here.
Like, give us the like past. See if we can get back to. I can already tell where the. If we could go back from like 2021 to now, yeah.
All right, right there's 2021. I'll put a bar up.
You can see the COVID spike where things went to ludicrous speed right there in the middle of the arch. There we go. And then, wow, it went right back to where it was about COVID levels, like before the stupidity.
Yeah,
full.
Sure enough.
Pretty much, just a little above.
A little.
I mean,
just enough.
Imagine that
just
round
enough.
trip. Yeah, that's how you destroy people's personal wealth right there. But anyway, I can go back to this and finish it out here because we're an hour 30 minutes in, and I've still got some stuff to deal with our good friend MrBeast.
Oh God.
Friend is a good way to put it. I don't think we'd be
$500 on Zoom, the video conferencing app that competes with all of the other identical video conferencing apps. It's trading at $60 per share right now. That would be quite a gain. She says that Tesla will rocket 1,350% over the next 5 years. I'll put a link in the video description to a tweet from Christopher Bloomstrand, who breaks down how unlikely this prediction is to work out. Mark Cahodas, another well-known short seller, wrote an article for the FT about 4 years ago called Pump and Dump Stock Trading Needs New Rules for the Digital Age. He argued that whether you own shares or are betting against a company, it's misleading to tell investors that you have a specific view on a company and then profit from a trade in the opposite direction. He argued that in the age of social media, it's too easy to whip up excitement or panic about a stock online, and that regulators could impose a 10-day minimum holding period on investors or short sellers who take a large position in a stock and then disseminate market-moving information, whether by publishing a report, going on media outlets, speaking at conferences, or posting on social media. He says that if both longs and shorts were required to hold a position that they've advocated for 10 days, the market is given an opportunity to evaluate the quality and credibility of their information. If the promoter is worried that the price might crash back to earth within 10 days, they shouldn't be touting the stock to begin with. If they want to trade in and out of the stock quickly, all they have to do is keep quiet about it. James Spertus, a lawyer for Left, told Bloomberg that the government's case is defective and that his client had no duty to disclose his personal trading intentions. Spertus said that Left published truthful information which is needed for markets to be efficient. He went on to say, the DOJ and the SEC threaten the integrity of the securities markets and put the health of our financial system at risk by trying to silence a publisher of truthful information who also trades in the securities he writes about. If you found today's video interesting, you should watch my video.
Whoopsies.
In 1821, Gregor MacGregor, a 19th century
Stop. Okay, thank you. Sometimes these things happen when you deal with technology.
It really does. Facts.
So, final thoughts on the whole Andrew Left situation.
I mean, we'll see what happens with the whole thing, right?
It's kind of intriguing. Yeah.
So
I'm kind of curious of the outcome of this because I mean, this is everywhere. You know, it's not just him. So maybe this could be a new outlook for this kind of issue that short pumpers, you know,
or long pumpers, because that was the best
pumpers
I think
that.
on there was saying he was long and then selling into the buying pressure. So it wasn't just like the short and distort thing that people say. Like it was just distort and long and short. So
do they do this just to keep their credibility up? So that way they can keep their account ups. I mean, you know, because they're having to pull these janky moves to be able to pump these stocks.
I think part of like the reason why like you won't see a lot of schemes like what happened with Andrew Left is a lot of it relies on his previous reputation as a good researcher. And once you've done that trick once, you don't get to do that trick again. Right. Especially when you get caught.
Well, actually, like only if you get caught, right? Like he could have kept on. I mean, that seems like it was a strategy. He made $20 million at least. So
that's true. I mean,
so to get us moving along, we're going to go back to Mr. B. Dogpack got from MrBeast a cease and desist.
Cease and desist lately.
All sorts of cease and desists going around.
Yeah.
Dear Mr.
And nobody's ceasing and desisting though.
Well, what's funny is he goes on with a 2.5-minute video here after this, but here cease and desist. Same word of Dynex represents your former employer, MrBeast YouTube LLC. I'm writing you to regard your recent troubling conduct following your involuntary termination from employment from the company April 19th, 2024. Specifically, it has been recently come to the company's attention that you have been, among other things, disclosing sensitive, confidential, and proprietary information. I didn't know fraud was proprietary now.
Illegal, what is it?
Maybe
like
that was the trick Andrew Left should have
gambling?
done. Yeah, maybe that was the trick Andrew Left should have done. He should have made it proprietary information that he was scamming people. Regarding the company's business operations and content creation methodology in breach of your contractual and legal obligations to the company, including the contractual post-employment obligations set forth in the confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement. Oh no, the NDAs where our Bed Bath & Beyond people.
Oh God. Bed Bath & Beyond is gonna merge with MrBeast.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's going to come out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
So MrBeast's legal team did send me a cease and desist, and here's my
made a
official
video on
response to that.
This is on Twitter.
I didn't even know that. Okay. Oh boy.
Yeah, I had to make that one on YouTube. Like, just because it is very...
Yeah, but save the ocean, we get slapped.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I haven't had the time, so I wouldn't know.
My track record so clean, they couldn't wait to just bash me. I must be
be getting too flashy. Y'all shouldn't have let the world gas me. It's too late cause I'm here to stay and these girls know that I'm nasty. I sent it back to her boyfriend with my handprint on her ass cheek. City talking, we taking notes. Tell them all to keep making posts. We should
I bet that I'm going to get copyright striked, and we're going to have to take that music out of the video later on. But yeah, there was also some other stuff here. Where was it? So they talk about the garbage pit thing and how it wasn't really all that great for basically the environment or anything. Also,
Isn't it Marcus Brown though?
Yep, that is indeed Marcus Brown. He I know that he got a bit of sting.
Wait,
dropped
no, don't
on him.
cancel. We can't cancel Marcus Brown too. No.
Oh, no. Well, he like
Okay.
what was it? I'm trying to think. It was Louis Rossman went after him for basically shilling for Apple. So that like it's nothing like this level of stuff, but like, okay, so he's talking about the whole plastics thing. If you want to go read that, it's on his Twitter. There was one other thing that I saw on here, and I don't know where it is, but they were talking about, let me see if it's on his main page, where there was some sort of MrBeast scammy Australian Feastables event. So this was briefly brought up in the video, the whole like the gambling thing on the computer that was briefly brought up in Dogpack's video. So they talk about that there was a promotion contest in Australia on the Feastables website, and it shows the process of the contest. Kids could play, no age verification or ID check, free gambling for kids.
Oh, wow.
So it shows the winners on the website. Lon S as the Mystery Machine winner. Article of a woman who won the spin and was later told her receipt was void. So we have some controversy as to whether or not potential reason why it was voided was it was a duplicate receipt. So that sounds like a big oopsies. Many examples of people getting 3 Lambos in the center and then not getting anything. So there's this, I don't know if it's so much like with a lot of things that happen with a lot of this MrBeast stuff was it a scam, or was it designed to be a scam, or was it just poorly managed? Like
that would be
like it doesn't change really a whole lot, but the difference of was it intentional? Was there actual intent? Or was it just like gross negligence? Like they ran the thing so poorly that it caused problems, which doesn't get rid of their liability, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, to say the least.
I would say it was poorly managed over, it just being a straight scam. I think MrBeast
yeah, go ahead.
I think his intentions would have been completely different. I mean, how he built himself up over time. I mean, I know there is a lot of other stuff going on here, but with this one, I think it's just poorly managed. Put in the team members.
I would say in this case, I think that's the way it looks like, because you have multiple receipts, you have the website failing on the whole spin thing. I don't know what you think about it, Platinum. If that is more the Australian situation was implicit fraud, or they just were incompetent.
I mean, it's hard to know, right? Like you can never
I know, right?
really tell what the motivation is behind something. So not sure, but like legally, is it legal or not? Right? Yeah, that's the only thing that matters.
So the big thing I wanted to show here, I think we skipped over it during the actual watching of the video that we did on Saturday, and I wanted to kind of go back over it. This is from Some Ordinary Gamers clipping of it, but it talks about the event that he's currently running in Las Vegas right now for Amazon and some of the safety issues that have been going on.
But was ultimately cut down, allegedly, in replacement of Logan Paul, a much larger creator.
But it's not. If they were having problems finding people,
that's different. There was one. Let me see if I can find it here, because there's been issues, like I said, with the whole thing being a safety situation. Let me see if this is it. Oh, here we are. I think this is it right here. Let me roll it back.
In Las Vegas. So according to the casino.org, okay, Vital Vegas.
Sorry, I got
yeah,
my
because you know Vegas is all about that gambling shit. It's an upcoming reality competition show where 1,000 contestants will compete for a $5 million prize. Now, according to this situation, this is them working with Amazon Prime Video. Okay, so at this point, it's gone beyond just online video production. We're getting into an actual broadcaster in this case, who are making real big hit TV shows like The Boys. Okay, it's crazy shit. Jimmy's gone wild in his quest for, you know, internet popularity. He's made it. He's actually gone so mainstream, it's not even funny. So allegedly, according to Vital Vegas, these are the people that are like lined up and ready for this operation, right? They're like dressing in garbage bags or something at the actual plaza in Vegas. Now, throughout this whole situation, what's apparently come out, and this is a little bit more alarming, is apparently the people that are actually competing on the show allegedly have been passing out, came with broken bones, and various other injuries. Rosanna Pansino, the individual who initially called out MrBeast for a hide-and-seek kerfuffle, ended up coming out with apparently alleged, you know, confirmations from the fucking people competing in the show actually sending her messages about getting injured. And apparently there's like over 5, maybe 10 people that have come out allegedly speaking to her. So read some of this. One of the actual accounts was, it was really bad. People were having seizures because they were not getting medication, even though we were promised we would. And it was 100% rigged. They presented it as though the game would be like Squid Games, basically a type of game show where all the games are an even playing field. And that was not at all the case. All the games were about speed and strength, so only the young athletic males were at an advantage over the women and elderly people that were casted. To make things worse, men started realizing that they could take out the women without being eliminated. A guy started tackling and hitting women, 2 girls were tackled and passed out on the field and dragged off to continue filming. Another account said we were given maybe 400 calories a meal and only fed every 12 hours. Food would run out and people would fight over, steal, and hoard food.
As someone who's like I'm not going to pretend like I'm some professional athlete, but did like high school athletics, 400 calories a meal and 12-hour days, that's bad. That's really fucking bad. Like, no, like there's no way you can sustain yourself like that if that's actually true. Obviously, I don't have any way to verify this, but like that's wow.
I mean, I'd leave. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I do not recommend at all.
No.
Water was scarce and kept running out as well. I had to sit with a bloody pad for 2 days before I could get undergarments and my reusable pads because I'm allergic to regular pads. We were also sleep deprived, only allowed to sleep 3 to 4 hours. We all slept on the floor of the stadium in a $10 sleeping bag. Another account said they offered anyone who lost $1,000 to sign away their rights to join any kind of class action lawsuit of any kind. I didn't sign, so I did not get the money. After the article came out and things started blowing up, they called everyone back and decided to offer an additional $1,000 per person to make up for any inconveniences.
That's definitely not a good look. Hey, we'll give you $1,000 if you sign away your rights to sue us. Oh, an article came out discussing how we haven't been doing, you know, having a safe environment at this competition. We'll give you $2,000 to sell away your rights to sue us. Like, holy fuck.
Wow.
I like that's like it just keeps getting worse the more that comes out about this. Like the original video we talked about Saturday was bad, and it just seems like it just keeps stacking up higher and higher.
Well, these things will they existed already, but people didn't believe them because it's MrBeast, right? He does charity, he's, you know, so good, like everyone likes him. So when you have like this popular person that everyone likes, it's, you know, hard to be like, oh, well, you know, this happened.
And when you're like you were talking about, just leave, like Clever Trader said, it's like the prize is like $5 million. There's some people who put up with a lot of shit if they think that they'll get $5 million.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's like,
I would walk away because like I value my life and sanity more than.
Well, I'd be thinking like at this point, after all we talk about, I'd be like, class action lawsuit. This is easy. Let's go.
Well, yeah, especially if like some of the other reports in this are true, that, you know, the events are being rigged, that they're like,
right.
That, you know, things like that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter if you
the
get $5
prescription
million if you
medication.
die.
Yeah, like
you didn't
that's
get
the
your
worst
prescription
thing right there.
medication.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
super messed up. Like you can't do that.
Or even like just like you're like if you're going to host an event like this, like it's one thing if it's like Survivor and you're living on an island, like the CBS Survivor Series, but most of these events, it's like at least they'll get you a hotel room, or they'll do things if it's a multi, stage event, or like Big Brother. But like saying that, like a woman having to say that she can't get healthcare products like pads and things like that, or a change of clothes, and are sleeping on a dirty floor in a $10 sleeping bag at an arena. Are you fucking serious? Like,
this seems a little far-fetched.
It's just, well, this has been always been an issue. I haven't gotten the chance to really read the article, but I want to point it out that this was an article done by Time, and I think it's mentioned either in the video that was done by Mudahar or the one done by Upper Echelon, where they were talking about that this has been kind of an ongoing theme that's not been really discussed, but was brought up in the Times article, that a lot of MrBeast productions cut corners, and the corners they cut are treating the employees fairly and properly, treating the people who are in the competition fairly and properly. Like when you get this big to where you're doing like, I'm going to go ahead and take this down because I think we're to like discussing stuff now, where you're getting to like major production levels, where you're doing stuff on the caliber of a CBS or an ABC or one of these big cable networks. You kind of have to be held to that same standard when it comes to treating your employees and things like that. You can't be doing this like cookie cutter YouTuber bullshit where like, like I don't pay them for being on my show. It's because I make $1 a video from YouTube. Like, would you guys like a big, would you like something off the McDonald's dollar menu? But like, that's stuff that like when you're doing stuff in your back room with your friends, that's totally fine. But when you're doing a major production where you're making thousands of dollars in revenue, hundreds of thousands of dollars probably in revenue, that's fucking bullshit. And you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, I think that was a YouTube production too, like put on by YouTube also, like as a partner.
One of the events were the event they're talking about right now is an Amazon event, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay, yeah, because they did just isn't that, did that already happen, or I thought he signed with Amazon?
I think they're in the process of doing the production for it right now. Is what's going on.
Okay.
It just seems
that's
risky.
crazy.
Treat your people that way.
Well, yeah, that was one thing that was put up in the videos, CSI, that we talked about. When I don't know if we talked about it, but when I watched the video that was done by Dogpack, where they said that like Survivor is so regulated as a contest, like where it's like if they had like a contest, like you had to undo these ropes. They made sure or you had to like do something. They made sure that the same person did all the ropes, so they were equally taunt and done in the same way. So you can't say someone had a more unfair advantage than the other person had. And that's the sort of things that you kind of have to do. It sounds more like a battle royale. Yeah.
Oof, filming now. So do we think that's gonna go through?
I don't know. Like if there's stuff like this going on, like you have to wonder, is Amazon going to put it on hold and go like, so, because like that's something to consider, because like I said, they're still filming, like they're in production right now. So I think Amazon's in kind of a shitty situation because they have to have already invested a lot into this. It's really hard to pull the plug, but things are going to have to change otherwise. Like, or is it one of those things where it's not so bad for Amazon where they're saying, well, we dumped all the production stuff onto MrBeast, and if he sinks or swims, that's kind of his fucking problem, not ours.
I guess.
We're just
but you
hosting
would
it.
Have like some sort of legal department
standards.
Yeah, kind of go over what they're doing and make sure it's all good.
Yeah,
so I guess we'll see. Yeah, you would think they would put it on hold, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Maybe this will like blow over, right? Like people don't really have great attention spans. So like in a couple weeks,
Right.
who's going to
Well, I think that's the problem. I think that's the thing that they're gambling on, because you've heard like there was even like gambling on.
Everyone's gambling.
I did a funny because like I didn't bring it up because I think it was pretty unnoteworthy. Like you can go look this up by a MrBeast employee, Chucky, over on Twitter. He kind of did the dance around the actual meat of the video that was done by Dogpack and just attack like the stuff that really was not the heart of that video. But that's the thing that you're seeing. You're seeing employees of MrBeast going out and doing this, but you don't hear MrBeast saying anything about these allegations that are kind of serious. You don't, you don't hear his legal team coming out and saying, we'll have a PR thing, we'll come out and we'll at least give you our side of the story. It may be, you know, PR'd to hell, but it would be at least something. Instead, his legal team sending out fucking cease and desist. They want to shut.
No, he made
up.
a statement. He made a very like obviously written by a lawyer PR statement where he said that they were having a third party investigate.
Oh yeah, that is right. Well, is that the allegations dealing with like the pedophilia thing, or is it generally, or
no idea?
And
I think it's about the whole, you know, underage gross shit.
Yeah. And like I'm at least willing to give the like benefit of the doubt on that, but generally like those third-party investigators, generally speaking, they're being paid by the person doing the investigation. So usually if they find something, it's not going to be particularly damning, or it's going to be PR'd over. Like like I'm sure some of these PR third-party investigation forms would like to, you know, do an in-depth investigation, but the way the system is set up, where the investigation is being paid for by the people who want to show that they didn't do anything wrong, the reputation is it's kind of bullshit. At least that's the interpretation I'm getting. But I kind of hope that it's an actual throw. I tend to be an optimist, but a realist at the same time. So I'm hopeful, but I'm not exactly holding my breath either.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to cover tonight. I like to pontificate and talk a lot. So at the end of every show, I give my guests the final word. So why don't we start with Scrollin', since it's your first time on the show? Any final thoughts to leave us with?
No, I really enjoyed it. I can't believe 2 hours went by so fast.
I know, right?
It does go by
fast. Crazy.
It does. So, and being on here with Platinum and you, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Platinum, anything to close us out with?
That was so nice. It was so nice to have you on here. Yeah, thanks for coming on. You should come on again.
You're not used to it after being on Twitter for so long.
I know, right? Like, it's so weird to get like nice things said. It's like, wait, what? What's happening?
I love to hear you guys' opinions, and pointing things out that, you know, other people miss. It's nice.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, thank you both for joining us tonight. I'm going to see if there's